Hello and welcome to So This is Thailand. I'm Johan Wimonchalau. Swadee krap.
I'm Tapani Manawet. Sawadee ka.
And I'm Belinda Skinner. Sawadee ka.
And you are here with us for the week, I believe.
For the week, I am.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's good news for you.
It is. It is good news. It's always nice to have a familiar face in the
That's
studio.
true.
Thank you.
Any news before we get into the news today?
Well,
Don't
I know
speak
we're all
at once.
right. We've all been very excited about what we were talking about earlier, and Johan, perhaps you can share about the cows.
Oh yeah, well this is an interesting thing. What I always, in addition to looking at the Thai news, I always like to see what's happening around the world out there. And one of the major things that are out there is they've just developed a cow in New Zealand which is anti-allergic. So we know a lot of people out there are lactose intolerant. Well, this cow actually produces milk without that extra protein in there.
Yeah, it's been genetically engineered to kind of mimic mother's milk or something like that.
Yeah, and so, it's just a testing phase right now. But it's just interesting to see what they can do with, I guess, what do you call that? It's not pharmacology, but
the genetic... I've even got lost on that one too, but
engineering?
scientific advancements.
Yeah, genetic engineering.
Yeah.
But, it's just still in the test phase. Obviously, it's going to be years away from actually people using milk in the future coming from an anti-allergic cow, but it's good to see that things like this are possible. So
Yeah, well, I think people are usually quite suspicious of GM stuff because, well, okay, it works now, but you can't really tell what side effects it's going to have in years to come.
exactly.
5 years,
There's a
10
lot
years.
of arguments about the genetically engineered animals. Do you remember when the first genetically engineered sheep came out, and there were so many arguments about, is this right or wrong? Is it incorrect? But we're seeing now with this cow, I mean, how good it can be for these people with lactose intolerant and yet still being able to build up the calcium.
Yeah, well, if you look how it can apply to here in Thailand as well, there's a lot of the new varieties of rice in the country which are been developed to withstand certain types of diseases and pests as well, and to have higher yields in smaller areas. So obviously, there are benefits to at least cultivating certain varieties of plants or food, or trying to steer certain kinds of animals to be a little more
More like humans.
Better off. Well, very interesting. So what else is happening? What about Talk of the Town?
All right, then in Talk of the Town, we're taking a look at first some local things that are going on, and it's about the cost of finding a really nice place to live. Now, the Bank of Thailand has been keeping an eye on real estate prices, and over the last year, the prices have increased by quite a fair bit, which is causing a little bit of concern. Condominium prices, according to the indices, have been increasing by 8.1% last year. House prices, on the other hand, 2.4%, and townhomes seem to be the least popular with 1.8% increase. Land prices are also increasing by about 5% from last year. And taking a look at Bangkok, last year 46,000 new condo units were coming up around Bangkok and the metropolitan area. That's an increase of 42% from the year before. So there is a huge demand for condos.
Well, you can see all the construction that's going on out there. I know it's actually a big inconvenience in some locations, but there's only so much land out there, and there's only one way to build, and that's up.
Sure.
Exactly. There's so much going on. I live in an area called Ari, which is just outside. It's not expat area, the Sukhumvit or Selom, but it's just coming up. There's so many condos building all around. I just wonder how it can be filled, but as the results have shown, that it is actually becoming really popular.
I think the demand is also where, around the BTS or MRT areas where all of a sudden the condos have just converged around the lines. And while they're trying to keep prices low, the size is also shrinking. According to the statistics, the size of the average studio now has shrunk from about 26 square meters down to 22.
Wow.
22.5 square meters.
Small.
Get all your stuff in there.
So a person like my size at 6 foot is going to have a very difficult trouble getting a normal sized bed in.
Oh, it's almost like it's turning into what we have in Japan with those little micro apartments where it's just one very long, narrow room.
Right, and you fold things down and you put the bed away and then pull out the dining table. It's probably going to have to start getting a bit like that soon.
Yeah. Well, looking at other news, believe it or not, most of us, when we think of a leech, it's not actually the most pleasant of animals, bloodsuckers that they are. But in fact, there is a large demand for aquatic leeches, earthworms, and also geckos, believe it or not, in China. So some towns right across the border from Laos, here in Thailand, are benefiting from harvesting all these wonderful creatures of nature and selling them to high demand in China. So you can find that, for leeches, if you're looking at freshwater ones, 500 to 1,000 baht per kilogram. If they're dried, 1,000 to 2,000 baht. So we're talking about over 100 million baht in revenue for a lot of these villagers out there on things that normally most of us would think, well, they're kind of pests or they're not very pleasant. But if you look at what's in a lot of, especially Chinese medicine, they use a lot of ingredients which we might think are a little strange or esoteric, but sure. In fact, they've been using these for thousands of years, and so why not?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I mean, Bear Grylls often tells us about what to eat, and it's a good source of protein, especially the earthworms. But I do hear the leeches can be quite rubbery. It's like eating a pencil eraser. So you have to marinate them, chop them down into small bits, and then not that I've done that, but I've just been
I don't think I should be trying out that recipe. Now, also on the topic of things to eat, and now on to things to drink. Carlsberg, the world's fourth largest brewer, is returning to Thailand after taking a 7-year hiatus. They have teamed up with SingCorp to distribute, market, and sell the very, very popular brand. And actually, if you compare to the rest of the Southeast Asian countries, Thailand is the only country where Carlsberg has a very small footprint. So this is going to change very soon. The partner of Carlsberg, SingCorp, as you know, of course, has almost 60% of Thailand's beer market. So they're very well placed to become a dominant force in the market. The main competitor, on the other hand, Heineken, has also been doing some movements, moving and shaking of their own. They have joined up with Asia Pacific Breweries, buying out the venture partner, and they're also going to be expanding their business as well.
Well, that was big news because I know there were really 3 main groups that were vying for that share in the F&N in Asia Pacific Brewery, and it was really a big contention. Our own Thai brewery here was trying to get their little ownership of that. And Heineken, with that, that purchase there, really cemented their foothold here.
Yeah. They, the one good thing though with having these large breweries here is the sponsorship for different events. They have the money. They have the money to for the tennis. I mean, I know it's not really a sporting event and an alcohol drink, but they do have a lot of money and they can generate a lot into it. I'm looking forward to Carlsberg because I don't know if it always reminds me of those adverts. The beer adverts tend to be the best adverts, and perhaps in Thailand we have very strict advertising law here, but the Carlsberg ads were the best. It's a shame that we can't use those as fillers today, but if you Google them, there's one called The Great Big Ad, and there's another one where there's a whole lot of bikers in a movie theatre, and they put 2 people who walk in and see. It's a whole social interaction. Will they sit these 2 seats in the middle of all these bikers? It's really interesting. So yeah, Google that.
Well, moving along to similarly outside the country, Prime Minister Yingluck was recently in New York and discussing there about plans of bringing back some policy and policing procedures to benefit Thailand, and benefit Bangkok. She actually met with Mayor Michael Bloomberg and discussed with him some of the things that can be done in terms of town planning and traffic management, hopefully to have improvements here within our own capital.
Well, that sounds good. Hopefully there are a lot of things I think we can learn from America and New York. So yeah, the policing would be interesting, but people have to abide by the law to start that.
Sure, and while she was there, she was actually talking. It wasn't just policy planning that she was talking with while she was visiting there. She also visited a lot of the organizations and a lot of the looking at some trade between the two about events called Kitchen of the World. Obviously they're trying to promote Thailand as the kitchen of the world and seeing what kind of reception internationally it's had so far, and it's looking very good.
Right, Thai food is so popular abroad, isn't it?
Oh,
Yes,
absolutely.
in big cities, everyone loves it. So yeah, that's a good way to go. And the final talk of the town for today is about those cosmetic procedures that women, and starting to be men as well, love so much. Now, last week there was a big headliner with presenter slash model who had undergone one of these filler treatments and fell into a coma. It's very sad to say that she has now passed away just today, very recently actually. And the Dermatological Society of Thailand has now come out to warn women about using substandard chemicals in favor of price, and also to go to less than standard doctors for the treatment in order to save money as well. Because it's going in your face, some of these treatments can lead to, for example, very prominent rotting, like nose flesh rotting and blindness. So it can really hit you in the muscles that you actually cannot afford to do without at all. So the tools and chemicals have to be the right standard, and also the person providing you care has to be of the exact training as well. So yeah.
Well, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, you wouldn't want to, obviously, if you're going to have some type of any medical treatment that's going to alter your looks or possibly be inside your body, you want to do it in a place where you have licensed professionals who know what they're doing, using, as Tara said, you know, medication and tools which are also appropriate and sterile.
Well, you get what you pay for, don't you? So, and it's your body. It's too important. You've only got one life, so you should pay for the top quality.
Well, it was unfortunate. I think we actually covered the story before. We were looking at the rise in plastic surgery and cosmetic surgery here in the country, and you know, looking at some of the young teenagers who have had multiple plastic surgeries when they were still very young. And it seems like, you know, that the superficial look, they're looking at it very short term and not understanding the consequences behind a lot of these procedures.
Well, do you know that the chemical that they're actually putting in, especially for the hips, is actually a very strong chemical used in soil fertilizers and for rubber for your contact lenses. So it's not really the correct. I wouldn't be putting a soil fertilizer in my hips.
In large quantities as well.
Exactly.
Do your homework.
Yeah.
Do your homework.
Well, that does wrap it up for the talk of the town, but coming up after the break, we have V-Talk, I believe.
We do indeed. We have, Valerie is going out and she'll be talking to Dr. Chris. He is the director of the Queen Sirikit Centre for Breast Cancer. So a very important, very important fundraising and foundation there. So coming up very soon is V-Talk with Dr. Valerie, and followed by our scoop, which is at Narya. So anybody who doesn't know about Narya and what you can get, stay tuned for after the break.